Determine what procedures you want in your class. When students come in class, what do you expect? When they leave, when they line up, what will your procedures be? Once you have determined those procedures, then you teach them. Effective classroom managers spend an inordinate amount of time teaching the rituals and procedures during the first few days and weeks of school. It makes the whole rest of the school year go like clockwork. Once you have taught those procedures, have students actually get up and practice them. It's not enough for me to tell you how to line up. You have to practice lining up. As students practice, provide feedback on how well they're doing. Tell them that a 10 is perfect, and when they practiced, it was a 5. Have them practice again. In fact, they will want to practice about 28 times over a 21-day period for it to become a habit. You want these procedures to become habits in the brains of your students. And when they finally get it right, when they get to a 10, celebrate. Celebrate the success. The brain loves celebration. Here's some occasions when you need rituals. You need a ritual for starting class. Students need to know when they walk in class, what do you expect? Can they talk? Can they not talk? I like to have calming music playing when my students walk in class. And I tell them if I hear your voice over the music, you are too loud. So they know how to talk beneath the music and not on top of the music. You also need a ritual for talking. If we're going to let students talk, they need to know when to talk and when not to talk. Your ritual might be a chime, it might be a bell, it might be a raised hand. It doesn't matter what you use as long as you have a signal that tells them when to talk and when not to talk. You also need a ritual for movement. I like to use music in class and tell students that when you're moving for this activity, you need to be finished by the time the song ends. Most songs last 2.5, 3 minutes. That's as long as you want them moving. So by the time the song ends, they're to be back in their seat. You also need a ritual for collecting papers. They need to know whether they're to pass their papers over the row or whether a student will collect, but you need to get those papers in the most expedient way possible. Let's talk about group work. Are students going to be sitting in groups, or are you going to teach them to move their desk into a group for group work and then move it back into a row when you're not doing group work? And if you are going to do that, students need to practice moving their chairs. Don't take it for granted that they know how to get in groups. You must practice. And then ending class. I made the mistake of being in a high school classroom recently when the bell rang. I, unfortunately, was between the students and the door. Every student in there jumped up and ran for the door, while the teacher screamed and yelled for them to sit down, sit down, sit down. Well, it dawned on me that if that teacher had a ritual from day one that when the bell rang, that was his cue and not their cue, then they would know what to do at the end of class.
It's just about time for you guys to go. All right, I have just one more question for you. Who's got the power?
We got the power.
Oh, that was kind of pitiful. Who's got the power?
We got the power.
Excellent job. Terrence, your row may go. And Phoebe, your row. Joel. And everybody up. Have a great afternoon. I'm getting ready to play music to help the students know that it's time for them to transition back from the activities they've been participating in to their seats. And then we'll begin more of a whole group instruction lesson. This is more interesting for them, and it prevents me from having to shout over their voices for them to hear me. Good. Thank you, guys.
One of the strategies I use to get the children regrouped or back from an activity where they've been up moving around, because that's very brain-based, is we use, if you can hear my voice clap one time, if you can hear my voice clap 2 times. Or 1, 2, 3, eyes on me, and they repeat 1, 2, eyes on you. So it gives them a chance to have to hear and respond so that you know you've gotten them back together, and then they take their seat.
I use what's called the 3-bell system. I ring the bell the first time, and they know to just freeze where they are. Whatever they're doing, they just have to freeze and eyes on me. And then I give them additional directions. Then on the second bell, they know to clean up, start to get items together, and they know they have a certain amount of time to do that. And on the third bell, they know to go back to their seats. It works like clockwork every day.
I use different rituals. Certain rituals that I use with my students, I simply, when they come in the morning, they know that they are going to get a starter problem, some type of activity. The starter problem might be on the overhead. The starter problem might be a task that I actually hand them. It is so funny because I stand out in the hall and other students pass by that are not in my class and they see me handing my students this sheet of paper. But that is their starter problem, and that is getting them in tune to what is going on in class. Now, if they're working in groups and they're working in activities, they're working such that if they hear my voice, I've already said to them, if you hear my voice, then you know that that is the time that we are culminating the activity. And because they're listening also, even though they're working, they're also listening to me and they're listening for my voice to bring to an end the activity. And now we're going to come into whole class discussion. So it's not difficult to bring them to the end of the task. Once they know I'm listening for Mr. Stinson's voice, I hear that voice say, okay, now it's time for us to come back together to discuss. And then they come back together, and that's not difficult.